So while I was traveling to prove to myself and the world that I can do it on my own, I started bumping into Islam, you know. Started with Senegal. I did a show and like a party in Senegal. And once, I had some downtime, I went to visit a place called Goree Island. It's like the first slave houses in West Africa. And long story short, God took me on a tour and he told me 60 million slaves passed through here. He said, but 6 million never left the soil. He said they fought and they died. So I was ignorant, like, damn, they must have been some, they were some real niggas. He was like, no, we're Muslim. I said, what do you mean? He said they would not submit to no one other than Allah, and they fought and they died. So that immediately stripped a layer from me, and that layer was black nationalism. Because at that point, everything I ever known to be an adverse situation or any oppressive state came from the color of my skin. But I had just learned in that moment that these people died for God. They had nothing to do with their skin. They died because they would not submit to no one other than God. So if you can't see the nobility in that, something ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Because we over here fighting about skin. You know what I'm saying? Disparity and rights and all this type of stuff. It's like, these men died for God. And that just like, then the second trip I went to Kazakhstan. This is Middle Eastern Asia. This is Russia. Me and Mario Winans, we went out there for like 9 days. We was a guest of the president. They laid everything out like we was U.S. ambassadors. So I remember like, backstage, president came in. He was a young guy. So I'm back there smoking like, yo, let me ask you a question. Like, you see a nigga, you say, what's up? I'm ignorant. I'm young. I figure I'm going to get a little language. Because every place I travel, I try to get a little bit of the language. He was like, Salam alaikum. I'm like, nah, that's what the Muslims say. And I was like, huh? Because, Kazakhstan, they like Mongolian descent. So they have like Oriental features, Russian genetics. So I'm thinking he's supposed to say, something like that. The man said, Salam alaikum. I was like, wow. So at that point, I learned diversity. Because in New York, I only knew Yemenis, Pakistanis, and the West African cab drivers. That was the extent of what I understood of the Muslims and the Arabs, meaning the Yemenis. That was the only depiction of them was always terrorists or, some extreme. So now I'm looking at diversity. It's a whole nother people who ascribe themselves to the same thing. Then last but not least, I went to the UAE. And, everything I ever thought about the Arabs, and I say Arabs, and I'm saying Arab because that's the correct way. We as a people, we know we're gonna give it our own thing. But when I was there, I seen that they lived a lifestyle effortlessly that we dreamed about. I'm like, man, this is crazy. The doors on their cars go up just like ours, and they doing it out here. You know what I'm saying? So I remember I was at the Emirates Palace Hotel. I left Dubai to perform in Dubai and went to Abu Dhabi. That's where I became Muslim. You know what I'm saying? And I remember like when I got to my hotel room and I looked off the balcony, I saw the sun rising over the Arabian Sea, and everything just clicked. Because, in this line of work that we in, we don't pay attention to these signs. We got miracles in front of us every day. There's no man that facilitates the rising and setting of the sun or rising and setting of the moon. Stars illuminating the sky. Precipitation, rain coming down. Ain't a man got nothing to do with that, and we ignore it every day. But we claim to be, believers or servants or slaves of God, So at that moment, something changed in my heart, and still to this day, I could never find words to describe it. But I knew at that moment, after everything that transpired leading up to that, I wanted to be Muslim. So I ran down to the lobby of the hotel. And the first Muslim I found, I said, yo, I want to be Muslim. He's looking at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean you want to be? I said, I want to be Muslim. Like, yo, you sure? I said, let's stop playing, man. I want to be Muslim. He said, all right, repeat after me. He said, raise your right hand, your right index finger. He said, Ashhadu in la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness that there's no deity worthy of worship and truth except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So I repeated it. And he said, Khalas, you Muslim. I said, nah, man. Come on, cut it out. Ain't nothing that simple. Not the life I lived, at least. Nothing's that simple. He said, Alhamdulillah, you Muslim. I said, you sure? He said, you Muslim? I'm like, nah, dog. We got to go get the outfit now. You got to dip me in the water or something. It ain't nothing like, come on. I'm not going. Ain't nothing that simple, right? But the simplicity of that day is the same simplicity that I live by today. We make life hard. You know what I'm saying? Your creator did not make life difficult for you. Made it easy.
How did you become so knowledgeable in the word? When I watched some of the videos, man, how long it took you? You was reading a book?
Well, they have a statement that the Prophet Muhammad used to say, "Man yahdi Allahu fala mudilla lahu, wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu." Whomsoever Allah chooses to guide, no one can lead them astray. And whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. So guidance and everything comes from your Creator. He bestows knowledge on who He wants. You can read a ton of books and be stupid. How many Harvard graduates ain't got no street smart? That's not how you depict a person's intellect. You know what I'm saying? We have a statement, al-ilmu qabla qawli wal-amal. Knowledge precedes speech and actions, right? So it's not permissible to speak or act without knowledge. You understand? Because a person that does that, he's only acting off his own whims and desires. There's no intellect in that. You know what I'm saying? So these principles is what Islam teach you. It teach you everything that you need, you know what I'm saying, to navigate through this worldly life with the intention of receiving what's promised in the next life. And paradise is not cheap. Like, everybody think they just gonna make it because they, help old ladies cross the street and, cut the neighbor's grass. I do good stuff. I never hurt nobody. But if the intention for these things are just for self-praise or people to acknowledge you, then you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
And it goes back to those men who chose to die than to subject themselves to the rule of man. That's strength. I ain't never met nobody that tough in my life. All the years I've been in the street, ain't nothing tougher than that. To accept death because I'm not going to submit to no creation, something that's just as much in need as me. I'm going to submit to the one that's free of need. And that's where, knowledge begins. Understanding your purpose. I had a guy I met just yesterday. He seen me praying outside the mall because it was getting close to, the prayer going out. And my son, I pray anywhere, side of a highway, anywhere, So the guy seen me. And I kind of seen him on my peripheral, but I wasn't paying him no mind. As soon as I finished praying, he approached me. He was like, yo, man, where does a man derive strength from? I say he derives strength from his purpose. So what's your purpose? He said, well, I don't know, to get to a level where I can help other people. I said, well, what if you can't do that? Do you still have a purpose? He's like, I ain't think of it like that. Yeah, I don't know. I said, yeah, your purpose is to worship the one that created you. That's your purpose. Because you'll be able to do that whether you're drunk. I mean, I didn't say drunk, but whether you have no feet, no hands, no sight, whatever, you'll always be able to do that. But if you believe your purpose is to run fast and you lose your legs, you know what I'm saying? This is why people slip into depression, commit suicide, because they believe that whatever purpose they were supposed to serve no longer exists. So what's to live for, right?
I got a question. So, do you I don't want to say force, but do you force upon the Muslim stuff to your kids?
No, nothing's forced. We have a statement in the Quran where Allah says, La ikrahu fi din. There's no compulsion in a religion. You can't compel someone to be Muslim.
Right.
Muslim is a form of submission. A Muslim is one who submits. So submission is a choice. No one can compel you to submit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So my children, they're raised, you know what I'm saying? The ones who are Muslim. I got children that are born Muslim, and I got children that accepted Islam, you know? But none of them are compelled. You know, none of them are compelled. You can't do that. You can't even do that without Islam. You know how miserable children are when parents try to vicariously live through them?
Yeah.
I didn't make it.
That's why I
Playing baseball,
don't
now
want
I'm
to say
going
the
to
word
make you
force,
play
but
baseball.
like just kind of like
you can't do that.
That's like you know.
You can't even compel your spouse. It's like you can't compel nobody.
Right.
Because when you do that, what you're doing is manufacturing something that's not real.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? We establish relationships and unions based on what that person brings to the table.